Good morning, Endeavor, and a special good morning to you today, Heidi.
And good morning, Houston, and also like to say good morning and thank you to Glenn for that wonderful wake-up song. I love you too.
That was a great song.
That wake-up music was Can't Stop Loving You, and it was performed by Sandy Hagar, and the song's by Van Halen. It was played for Piper. Crew members were awakened to a day that will see the fourth spacewalk by Endeavour astronauts outside the International Space Station. Also, engineers continue to explore options for the off-and-on urine processor assembly, or UPA. And that assembly ran for almost 3 hours and produced about a gallon of liquid Sunday after modifications by Expedition 18 Commander Mike Fink and Endeavour mission specialist Don Pettit, before it once again shut down. Today, Fink will install 2 bolts in the UPA's distillation assembly to further reduce vibration. Spacewalkers Bowen and Kimbrough are scheduled to leave the station's Quest airlock at 12:45 p.m. Central Time today. Bowen will wear the all-white suit, and Kimbrough's suit will have broken red stripes. They will work to finish cleaning, lubrication, and bearing assembly replacements on the starboard solar alpha rotary joint, or SARJ. That joint has been the focus of activities in the first 3 spacewalks of Endeavour's mission to the station. The joint has been used sparingly since increased power consumption and vibrations were noticed in it in September last year. Kimbrough, after installing a TV camera on the station's truss, will lubricate the port SARJ, which has been working fine. Bowen will inspect the bulky berthing mechanism latch on the Japanese Kibo laboratory and reinstall a cover over it. He also will install a GPS antenna that will guide the future unpiloted Japanese cargo vehicle to a point near the station, where the station's Canadarm2 will grasp it for berthing. Bo will be today's intravehicular officer, a spacewalk choreographer.
This is Mission Control, Houston. Spacecraft communicator Terry Virts and Mission Control in the space station control room, telling the crew on board the shuttle station complex that the EVA crew is go to begin depressing the crew lock portion of the airlock. That'll be the next step as they get ready to step out the door. They're running about 25 minutes ahead of the timeline. A reminder that the official start of the EVA will begin when the spacesuits that they're wearing are switched over to internal battery power. As we prepare for the initial exit of the station, a note that Shane Kimbrough's helmet-mounted camera will be denoted by a numeral 16 in the lower right-hand corner. Steve Powen's will be denoted by the number 18 in the right-hand corner. Again, Bowen's spacesuit today will have no stripes whatsoever, and Kimbrough's will have a broken red stripe on the legs. And here's a good look at the external area of the Quest airlock module, the crew lock portion of the module, where the 2 spacewalkers will be emerging.
That's complete. Go on the handle. All right, it's open. Coming up, Steve. Yep, thank you. There you go. Good job. Oh, almost there.
Thermal cover on the outside of the Quest airlock module's crew lock opening up.
Back up behind it now. Just like good numbers.
Copy, and you both are egress and you can obviously see that it's sunlight, so you can go ahead and put your visors down and check your lights on.
Visors down, light on, EV2. Visors down, light on, EV3.
Copy. Okay, Shane, you can check both saber handles down when you get a chance.
Yeah, that's been work.
And we're watching live television pictures from the exterior cameras on the International Space Station as Shane Kimbrough, there in the spacesuit with the broken red stripes around the legs, makes the first exit from the Quest airlock module hatch. Be followed by fellow spacewalker Steve Bowen. They began the spacewalk at 12:24 p.m. Central Time as the space station complex orbited 220 miles over the South Pacific.
Okay, Steve, you can now egress the airlock, and then you're going to go back and get your crew lock TVA bag.
All right, I'll get that in work.
Shane Kimbrough now moving out on the handrail that connects the Quest airlock module to the truss structure. And here's a look at the helmet camera as Kimbrough moves hand over hand out toward the port solar alpha rotary joint.
All right, going up to the feeder rail.
Copy that, Shane, and you're going to install your tether shuttle on the meter port. Steve's going to go on the starboard.
Copy, I'm on port. Copy. Get these tethers off and I'll be ready. All right, thermal cover is closed.
This is Mission Control Houston looking at television pictures from outside the International Space Station's Quest airlock as spacewalker Steve Bowen, there in the suit with no stripes on the legs, maneuvers outside the airlock and closes the thermal cover over the hatchway. He's now moving out to the Port Solar Alpha Rotary Joint location so he can help Shane Kimbrough as they remove the multi-layer insulation covers on the Solar Alpha Rotary Joint on the left-hand side of the station's truss structure so that Kimbrough can begin his work lubricating the
P3 port side.
Solar Alpha Rotary Joint on the opposite side from where the crews have been working previously in the mission. Today's spacewalk beginning about 20 minutes earlier than originally scheduled. The start of the EVA delayed slightly by some difficulty with Shane Kimbrough's waistline seal on his extravehicular mobility unit, but with help from Chris Ferguson and Sadney Magnus inside the Quest airlock module, managed to get that seal firmly latched up, and the dogs all set in their positions.
And Houston Endeavor for EVA. Go ahead. Just wanted to check all the inhibits are in place.
Spacewalkers verifying that all of the inhibits or safety measures are in place for the upcoming activity at the Port Solar Alpha Rotary Joint.
Okay, copy, and you have a go to translate out to the S0 port strut, and we'll do an inspection once you get to where you're working.
Okay, thank you.
Inside the International Space Station, Endeavour pilot Eric Bowe serving as the intervehicular activity crew member, supporting the spacewalkers outside with relaying communications from the ground up and from the spacewalkers down to the International Space Station Flight Control Room, where lead EVA officer John Ray and his team are watching over the activities, supported by Flight Director Holly Ridings and the rest of her crew.
Copy that, Steve. Cover 6 is removed.
Roger. I gotta get in a different position here. I didn't know it too well.
Copy that, Tim.
First word back from spacewalker Steve Bowen and Shane Kimbrough reporting that they do believe they see some lubricant on the outer canted surface of the race ring on the port side solar alpha rotary joint. One of the first jobs for the two spacewalkers there was to do a preliminary inspection of the race ring in its current condition to relay that information down to engineers on the ground who are following along with the spacewalk and getting ready for the lubrication using brake coat grease in the microgravity environment. Steve Bowen and Shane Kimbrough continue their work on the port side solar alpha rotary joint, removing the cover so that they can gain access to the race ring inside and provide some additional lubrication.
I've got the gun trapped and there's grease already coming out, so it's the J-hook area.
Okay, copy. It's primed, and you're going to grease the inner canted surface on the covers 14 and 15.
Copy that.
So, Steve, just kind of the big picture here. You're going back to put in TBA 3 under covers 17 and 18. And 17 and 18, the covers are actually stowed on phase 4.
Understand. All right, when I get out here, I'm going to leave my tether so it doesn't interfere with me down there.
Copy.
I'll tell you how I do that when I get there.
It looks like you're putting your second wet wipe in this large trash bag.
I am.
And did two wet wipes seem to do the job?
Oh yeah, got a good layer there. I'm ready to start scraping up here in a second.
Roger that. So you're going to get your dry wipe and the scraper and the box.
Correct. Alright, the J-hook's deactivated. I'll put the tip cover on and then head on back.
Sounds like a good plan. Thanks for the tag up, Shane.
View of the starboard solar alpha rotary joint where Steve Bowen is present with a scraper tool for cleaning the joint and the race ring of contaminating metal filings that had been seen in this solar alpha rotary joint.
All right. I got the J-hook nozzle ready back to its original ret on the bag. Get mine off.
Copy, Shane. J-hook nozzle is stowed on the bag.
The spectacular view of spacewalker Steve Bowen
There, complete on
proceeding with his work on the starboard solar alpha rotary joint, cleaning and lubricating that joint in preparation for the removal and installation of the 11th and final terminal bearing assembly that's going to be installed on this flight.
Translate to covers 11 and 10.
Okay.
I got 4.8 with a green light, and you said 11.0 for the turns?
11.8.
Okay, 11.8 for the turns. So 4.8 and 11.8, thanks.
All right, I'm ready for next.
Receiving helmet camera video from Shane Kimbrough as he continues his work on the port side of the space station's solar arrays, getting ready to lubricate the next section of race ring.
5 clockwise 2. Okay.
That's correct.
Meanwhile, Steve Bowen working on the opposite side of the truss structure on the starboard side solar alpha rotary joint, beginning the process of removing and replacing the final of 11 trundle bearing assemblies after cleaning up the race ring of debris and lubricating it. The starboard side of the truss structure.
Bag that was holding up a little bit. That's squarely. Eric, I'm going to hold here till Shane gets by me.
Okay, sounds like a good plan. Shane, you can just leave the thermal cover open. Steve's right there.
Okay.
Houston Endeavor for EVA.
Go ahead, Eric.
Just tacking up with you, you can see Shane's heading out for the ETVCG camera install, and Steve's coming in with the bags from the Sarge, and then going to head out to work the contingency.
Mission Control Houston, 2 hours 46 minutes into today's final spacewalk of the STS-126 mission.
Yes, I will.
A good look at Shane Kimbrough, now in his second spacewalk of his career, joined by Steve Bowen, wrapping up the third spacewalk of this mission and of his career. All of the work with the starboard solar alpha rotary joint now complete and closed out. The first auto tracking test of the refurbished rotary joint on the right side of the International Space Station planned for early tomorrow morning in a window that would begin at around 4:30 a.m. Central Time. Kimbrough, having completed the lubrication of the port solar alpha rotary joint, went back into the Quest airlock to retrieve an external television camera group, essentially a television camera that you see him holding, plus associated hardware with a stanchion that will be installed at what is known as camera port 7 on the nadir or earthward facing side of the port 1 truss of the International Space Station, primarily designed to provide additional video views on behalf of the rendezvous and approach of the new H-2 transfer vehicle, the HTV as it is known, a Japanese cargo ship that will rendezvous with the International Space Station on its maiden flight late next year and be grappled by the Canadarm2 to be berthed on the nadir common berthing mechanism of the Harmony connecting node. As Kimbrough works with the installation of that camera group, Bowen now will move to the end cone of the Kibo module to the external facility berthing mechanism. That is the latching mechanism that was extensively tested last Friday by Expedition 18 Commander Mike Fink and Flight Engineer Sandy Magnus during a 3.5-hour test of all of the latches and data umbilicals and all of the latching mechanisms commanded from a console inside the new Japanese Kibo module. One of those latches failed to retract properly, and so Bowen will manually work to retract that one latch and set the stage for the installation of a thermal cover over that mechanism. It will not be used again until the STS-127 mission of the Shuttle Endeavour next May, which will deliver for mating to that end cone or the back porch of Kibo a platform upon which a number of Japanese science experiments will be mounted.
Yeah, just a second, I gotta get through this ring now.
Okay.
There we go. I am ready to the camera already.
Okay, great. Now you're going to release the round scoop and temp stow it on your mini workstation.
Okay. Work. All right, Eric, that was 30 turns.
Hey, copy, 30 turns, and what about the torque?
3.0. That makes sense.
That doesn't make sense. We should have about 9.
No, sorry, 9.2. Okay.
Okay, yep, so 30 turns and 9.2, and confirm you had a green light.
Green light, yep.
Copy that. Same settings, Alpha 7, clockwise 2.
Okay. Going for the outer bolts.
That's correct. So Alpha 7, clockwise 2, you're going to engage the outer bolts to torque 7 to 12 turns.
Okay, copy on order.
And call which one you're working on first.
Let me ask.
Copy.
Steve Bowen moving on to begin the work to retract one of the structural latches on the external facility berthing mechanism on the end cone of the Kibo module on the International Space Station that did not retract properly during a comprehensive test conducted last Friday by Mike Fink and Sandy Magnus. Meanwhile, Shane Kimbrough continues his work to install a camera system on the nadir side, or the earthward-facing side of the Port 1 truss of the International Space Station, mounting that camera on a stanchion, releasing the pan and tilt mechanism, preparing to connect a number of electrical connections that will lead to the activation of that camera.
All right, Eric, what's next for me?
A good view of Shane Kimbrough out on the port truss of the International Space Station as he is in the home stretch of connecting a number of electrical umbilicals and connector caps associated with the external television camera group that you see rising on that stanchion, a video camera that will provide additional television capability for situational awareness for the rendezvous and grapple of the Japanese H-2 transfer vehicle, the HTV, that will be launched from the Tanegashima Space Center in Japan late next year. It will automatically rendezvous with the station, put the brakes on, and be grappled by the Canadarm2 to be berthed on the nadir port of the Harmony connecting node.
So pitch up a little bit, Steve. We'll see what you see. Can you get a good sign up?
Steve Bowen in the process of mating connectors for the first of the two global positioning system antennas on the Japanese logistics module on the International Space Station.
Okay, copy, Shane. 11 is complete.
Don Pettit and Greg Shamatov have been spending most of the day today with continuing troubleshooting procedures to mount additional brackets to try to further isolate, balance, and provide greater stability for the distillation assembly portion of that complex plumbing system designed to convert urine and condensate as well as wastewater into potable water for the station crew.
Everybody in the commander seat?
Yep, if you just hold there 1 second.
Take his bag out of my way.
Thanks, Steve.
This is how not to look on DVA with all this debris hanging off of me.
It's a view from Mission Specialist Steve Bowen's helmet camera as he
With all that stuff, that means you're working hard.
Yeah.
makes his way off of the
Harder, not smarter theory.
Kibo Laboratories logistics module, a storage area on top of the main laboratory.
Endeavor Houston for EVA. Go ahead for EVA.
Heads up, we powered up the GPS antenna heaters and it looks good. That's good to hear.
Outstanding, and Steve copies, and thanks for that, Houston, and great work, Steve.
That's good to hear. All right. That's cycle my tether here.
Bowen's finished the installation of 2 GPS antennas that are going to be used in the future to guide the Japanese H-2 transfer vehicle to the International Space Station. And as you just heard, the ground team...
Translate down to the handrail like you're doing, and then you're going to do the tether swap back on your 85.
Correct.
You just heard the ground team report that they had fired up the heaters on those antennas and everything is looking good on them.
If you can just get your feet up when you come in over these bags, I mean, get your... Yep. Let me try and get my wrap back. My wrist doesn't want to retract. Have to cycle it.
The repressurization of the Quest airlock is now in work, and that brings the spacewalk to an official close at 6:31 p.m. Central Time, 6 hours and 7 minutes into the spacewalk.
What I want to show you again is I try to take it to the unlock position.
Endeavor Houston,
I would say it probably takes more pressure than normal, and there are some times when you do that you cannot get it to go unlocked. And now what I'll do is I'll take it back to the pre-engage and into the lock position. Now I'm going to try to get it to go back to the unlock position again. Yeah, I seem to be able to get it fairly. Yeah, the first time that I did it after getting Shane out of the suit, which by the way, it unlocks very easily getting him out of the suit. But that slide from the pre-engage to the unlock position really requires, I think, more force than I've been accustomed to using, and I had Steve Bowen kind of run through it as well, and he kind of agreed with me. So that's probably the one piece of feedback I have. I'll continue to look through your procedure here and see if there's anything else, and I'll let you know if there's any other results.
Houston copies.
That was Commander Chris Ferguson giving the teams on the ground a view of one of the spacesuits used in today's final spacewalk of the STS-126 mission. A lever that was, or rather an attachment that was being a little bit bonky, slide on its grooves. Just pointing that out to the teams on the ground so that they can consider whether or not anything needs to be done with that. And then the plan for the added day to the mission, that decision was made earlier today. And so the teams on the ground are working on replanning the crew's timeline. That day will be inserted tomorrow, so the ground teams are working on immediately what the crew will be doing tomorrow. They have now some extra time to finish up the unpacking and packing of the multi-purpose logistics module while they work to produce a sample from the system, the station's new water processing systems rack, hoping to get a sample through the urine processor assembly of that system. and then run that sample through the water processing assembly side. Test of the urine processor is continuing on board the space station after making some additional modifications to the equipment earlier today. Commander Mike Fink and Mission Specialist Don Pettit and Greg Shamatoff were able to get the system ready for this latest test, which started at 7:06 p.m. Central Time. It takes about 4 hours for a full sample to run through the system. However, if the processor continues to work well, the teams on the ground have decided to stop it at 10:30 p.m. Central, coming up in a little less than 10 minutes now, and put another sample in, filled to about 75%, then let that the urine processor system cool down for about 2 hours before running the new sample again during the crew's sleep period. It lets them get some troubleshooting of the system in overnight while the crew is asleep if necessary.